Alright, monk.mp4, let's get right into it. We're back, checking out Monk today in the attempt to cover every spec in Mists of Pandaria. If you haven't been following these guides, there'll be all kinds of annotations up with all the other specs we've done so far. But one way or the other, it's going to be a complicated video, so we might as well just jump right into it. What we're talking about here is, quote-unquote, the changes, talents, glyphs, stats, reforging, when to heal with what spells and how, and overall a comparison of the healers and where they all fit in the current model at the end. Okay, so like I said, there are no changes, you know what I mean? This is going to be an interesting video because everything is new. Every single thing is new, so we're going to have to cover it all in depth. One other preface, I'm only 88 on the beta. I don't have time to get to 90 on this guy, but I feel for the most part the knowledge doesn't require you to be 90. I haven't actually gotten to do any raid testing with this guy, but I've seen plenty of raid testing from other monks and other logs and stuff like that. So if you have any questions about that, you're welcome to leave them in the description. Otherwise, let's get right into it. Alright, so since we have nothing to compare the spells to, compare things to, we're going to have to talk about what main mechanics each class or each ability niches into. Alright, and we'll talk about why it's significant as well. Typically, this is a part where I talk about what big changes the class and the spec has received, but since it's all new, it can't really be done that way. So one way or the other, first thing to realize is they have the King's buff. Okay, it's the same buff, gives strength, agility, and intellect. Now that the King's buff, quote unquote, has been changed, so there's one, I guess, change, but it's called Legacy of the Emperor. They have it, so they can do it. Next up on the list, we're just going to fly through these, alright? We have reduction CDs. First thing we're talking about here is Life Cocoon. They have some really, really potent life CDs. Alright, so let's talk about them. Life Cocoon, it encases its single target 2-minute CD, encases the target in an absorbed cocoon, and it increases all periodic healing by 50%. Okay, so this is both a reduction CD and a throughput CD at the same time, basically, because what you have here is you have something that you could put on a player that's going to absorb damage and increase the healing you do to them. So it's like Guardian Spirit plus pain suppression, right? Hand to Sack plus Guardian Spirit kind of thing. It's a great CD. Very, very usable. You'll need this a lot. It looks badass too. Check this out. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so the next one they have is Zen Meditation. Okay, Zen Meditation reduces all damage taken by 90% and redirects to you up to 5 harmful spellcasts. So 90% reduction. However, this is broken when you move or you get melee attacked. So tanking a boss won't be able to use it. Stuff like that. Healers, you know, if you have to move, you can't really use it. But one way or the other, it's basically raid wall. 90% for 8 seconds. This is massive. Massive, massive, massive. Huge CD. It's only on a 3-minute cooldown, but it's strong. It's definitely going to be used a lot. Okay. Next up is their oh shit button. We're calling this one Revival. This is going to be a 3-minute CD. It's going to instantly heal all raid and party members for 63,000, blah, blah, blah. It's going to clear them of any debuff as well. So this is a bit new, especially since we now have we have a CD on the spells now. Don't forget about that. This is going to be big because if you got to get stuff off everybody at once, you got to use this ability. It's only on a 3-minute CD. This is not the hour CD that Lay on Hands had in Classic. Let's put it that way. All right, but that's a really, really good option and heals everybody, every single person, and gets every single disease, poison, magic, anything off them. All right. All right, let's talk about their mana CD. Now, they only have one, but it's a badass one. It's called Mana Tea. Not the animal, okay? It's something you drink. But what happens is, basically, for every 4 chi consumed, you get a stack. Okay, so you're using chi, you're consuming it throughout healing, you're getting stacks. This ability can consume up to 2 at once, and it's going to regenerate 4% mana per stack. Okay, now, basically what you want to do is, the way it looks to me anyway, is you want to get stacks, you want to get them stacked up, and then you want to pop it when you need it. There's 2 ways I could see this being used. You could use them like all at once, right? So say you're doing perhaps Heroic Ultraxium. Tons of healing going on throughout the fight. The only real break period you have is when you're out in the other, like, when you take the Twilight Shift thing and takes you to the other world. That's a good time to use this, right? But either way, you have to time it properly. Can you afford to not use it throughout the fight? If so, you can pop them all at once and, like, I mean, you could essentially restore like half your mana in a few GCDs. But if you don't have the GCDs for that, you're going to have to fit it in throughout the fight. Anyway, we'll talk about that more a bit later. There's a glyph and stuff for that later. Next up on the list here is their throughput spell. It's called Thunder Focus T. The 45-second CD, you're going to receive double healing for your next healing surge and causing your next uplift to refresh duration of Renewing Mists. I'm kind of hoping everybody knows what some of these spells are already, because this isn't like a basic guide. It's supposed to be talking about how the class performs, but I'll try to talk about each of these abilities one way or the other. This is a really good throughput. It's right up there with Avenging Wrath. You know what I mean? Any throughput CD a healer has is usually a really strong one. So just take my word for it if you don't know what all those things do for now. We'll explain that in a bit. Now, the next bit we have to talk about here is mobility. They have a great deal of mobility, but they really only have one or two options when it comes to mobility. They do have a lot of moving, though. They can roll. They got the roll. That's baseline. Everybody's got that. But what we're talking about here is the spinning crane kick. Hover over that. Basically, you have something in your spellbook that makes the spinning crane kick heal people while you're doing it. Okay? So you can use it and move at the same time. So it's an AoE on the go. The only class in the game that has anything remotely similar. Anything even on the same page. AoE spell on the go. That literally emanates healing for you on the go. The only thing that was even remotely similar at one point was Holy Radiance before they changed it into a cast. Okay? So you have this. This is insane. The next thing that you can do while you're healing on the go, though, Renewing Mists. This spell is insane. I'll just show it quick. It basically, you put it on somebody. It's basically Rejuve, only it freaking blossoms as well, and it spreads. So it's going to heal, it's going to heal, it's going to heal, and then it's going to travel to the closest injured party member within 20 yards. It can happen 3 times per cast. Just let that sink in, okay? So this hot will spread for you. Okay, 1 global spreads. Insane. 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 Other things you got here is the healing spheres, however you say that. Just throw a few of them down, see what they look like. You should have seen them by now. Little green balls. You can basically put them anywhere you want. They're really cool looking, but you could chain these in a line, place them where you want them, you put them down on the move, etc. And then you also have your 30-point talent, which we'll talk about in a bit. They have so much mobility. It's insane how much healing they can do on the go. Like, straight up on the go, too. Not like move, stop, heal, move, heal. No. This is like never stop moving kind of efficiency. It's unreal. They're right up there with druids. Really insane. Okay. Now, another thing that we got to talk about is it's called Transcendence. It's basically a warlock portal. I'm not going to belabor on it, but you put your body somewhere, and then you click it again, and it transports back there, and you swap places. So it's a bit different than the warlock portal, where you put the portal there, and you'll always end up there. But you'll swap places with the body, quote unquote, and your spirit, and then the other place where you came from will be where the spirit is now. So you'll have to go back there. So it's good for. I mean, it's just amazing. It really is. I wish Paladins had something like this. Wow, this is really making me want to play some Monk. Let's just keep moving on. So in terms of survivability, they have a self heal. Where the hell is it? Yeah, there we go. Expel harm. Basically just a self heal, and whenever it heals you, it does some damage. So don't worry about that. That's a self heal though if you have it. And then fortifying brew. This will be your thing where you got to soak some damage. It's gonna be 20% reduction to all damage, which is ridiculous, and then 20% health also, which is also ridiculous. You got the best of both worlds pretty much in every ability. Now they also have the mana pool thing. Just a quick note on the mana pool. It's only 200k since I'm not 90, but it should be 300k. Just realize everybody in the game has this mana pool thing, okay? So the same things are going to go for what I said about previous classes. Either way, this isn't as big a deal for them. It really isn't, because they have two resources that they need to manage properly. They have mana and they have chi. And we'll talk about how the two interact when we get to the spell selection part. But, I mean, one way or the other, this is like crazy, crazy, crazy class. So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I'm really sorry. This series is supposed to be to show people who have already played the class how to play the class in MoP. But you can't really do that with monks. So I'm kind of just trying to brief overview of the basics. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions in the comments. All right, guys? So we're just going to have to move on. Okay, so we're going to talk about stats now. The same thing happens for every healer, like we said. Intellect is now only a throughput spell. It does not increase your mana pool or any type of restoration stat. Basically, what you'll need now is Spirit. Spirit has pretty much doubled in its efficacy. It's going to be the only way you can regen mana in a fixed mana pool. So, Spirit is now the best stat, absolutely. Intellect will be your best throughput stat. So, I'd say they're a 1-to-1. You can figure this out on your own. A lot of players are saying, how much Spirit do I need to be comfortable before I could start effectively doubling my healing? Which is definitely a good way to look at it. So, 1-to-1 for Spirit, and then you pick. Next up, Haste. This is a hot class, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is essentially Resto Druid 2.0. Fucking 5.0, let's put it that way. They are so leaps and bounds ahead of every other class in terms of their hots. It is just unfathomable. So guess what? There's breakpoints. Oh, you can guarantee that. There are definitely breakpoints. And if there's a breakpoint for Renewing Mist, you need it. Okay, you absolutely need it. This spell is going to be huge. Massive, massive, massive. So definitely need hot haste to breakpoint. Can't tell you what that is right now, though. I don't know it. If anyone knows the breakpoint, please let me know. Be happy to thumbs up that post. Mastery. Well, this is a good mastery. Let's read it. I'll explain why I like it. Okay, so it's basically going to just summon an extra healing sphere, like the one ability they have. But the cool thing about this is it's going to summon them in random locations. If you've ever done anything on MoP with a tank or a healing monk, you'd have seen this. They have the exact same mastery for some reason. But either way, it's neat because they're just all speckled around the place. So if it's a stacked up AoE fight, they're just automatically going to get absorbed. It's basically extra healing. But if it's not a stacked up AoE fight and there's not a lot of movement, say it's like the only real example I could think of is perhaps like the black phase in Xanaz, where everybody's spread out in different places. That's where your mastery is just going to suffer. It's just terrible in that location because it's going to put them in spots where there aren't people, spots where there aren't a lot of people aren't going to actually move towards them. So for the most part, I think mastery is really good. Haste is, you need it to a breakpoint. Okay, so there is no question about that. Whether or not it falls out after that is depending on whether or not you like mastery and whether or not you think it can be too strong in maybe a situation like where there's a lot of people in an area and all the spheres are going to be immediately consumed. And then crit, no way. Just don't even consider crit. Crit is always terrible at the beginning. The only class that was decent for it was Discipline Priest, but no, crit is not a tank or is not a healing stat in the beginning of the tier, that's for sure. All right, so talents. Talents are definitely next up. We'll talk about the talents really briefly, just go through each of them. For the first one, it's basically all just movement speed again, just like Holy Pally, pretty much everyone. The first one's Celery. It's called Celery. No, it's Celerity. Anyway, but it gives you an extra roll. So you can roll 3 times now rather than 2. I like this pretty much in any standard situation where you need to roll a few times, perhaps doing dungeons or traveling through 5-mans. But another good idea is this one removes any effects that might slow you, and then increases their movement speed by 70%. So this one's good maybe for PvP or perhaps a fight that slows you. Not really sure. And then obviously the last one is it's just going to increase your movement speed every time you roll. So if you don't actually need to roll a lot, but you need to move quick after you do roll, this might be a good one. 30-point talent is Chi Wave all the way for me. It's basically Palm, only it affects the damage, does some damage too. It hits like the boss and stuff as well. So this will be even better for 25-man raids than it would be for 5-man dungeons. And then Zen Sphere is a good option as well. It puts a ball over the person's head. It heals them, and then you use it again, and it explodes and kind of blankets the raid with some healing. So good for old Traxian type fights where everyone's stacked up. Chi Burst I don't really like. You have to summon a torrent, blah, blah, blah. It's basically Divine Star. I don't really like ones like that, but it could be good. This is pretty much all situational, but I would rock Chi Wave just because you could kind of use it on the move. It'll bounce around a bit. You don't need everybody stacked up like you would for Zen Sphere. Ascension for 45-point talents is my choice. I'm going with the extra Chi over anything else, but I understand like high-rated players, serious players might want to instantly restore all their Chi, so you could use one of the spenders. Now, that's a big deal if you're really, really doing, you know, I don't know. I don't really know. But one way or the other, if you need it, go for it. It's there. I like having an extra amount of Chi since my Chi seems to pool. And then this one, Jab, generates an additional Chi. Yeah, if you didn't know, you could DPS to heal. It's unreal. This class is just ridiculous. So all really situational, all what you like. Deadly Reach is my one for here. Your paralysis is now going to be usable from 20 yards away. Otherwise, this like isn't even usable. You'd have to be right. Paralysis, you need to be like right next to the person. This is good for dungeons. It's always good to have a CC. Trust me. It's better to CC a target than to heal extra. Trust me on that. Okay. The other options don't really apply to healers, so I'm just going to skip them. You could check them out if you want, though. Healing Elixirs is my choice in the 75-point talent. Anytime you drink from brew or tea, you gain 10% of your total health, and you're going to be doing this a lot. Remember what we said here, we got Thunder Focus Tea, 45-second CD, and then Mana Tea, which you could essentially use all at once or throughout the fight. It's good to have extra health coming in. I've always liked that. I like that in Selfless Healer, Protector of the Innocent for Holy Paladins, other stuff like that. It's good to have this. You don't want to be worrying about healing yourself as much. And if you can get health by accident, that's a good thing. The other ones are decent as well, though. Dampen the damage from the most harmful attack done to you. The next 3 attacks within 45 seconds deal damage equal to 10% or more of your total health that reduced in half. So if you need to, if you're going to have to take a big hit, you know you're going to have to take a big hit, you could pick this one up. And then same with Diffuse Magic, reduces all spell damage taken by 90. And reversing them back to the original caster. So more of a PvP spell, but if you know you're going to have to take a ton of spell damage, you know, pick that one up and you are going to be golden. Easy mode. Now the final tier is a bit of a conundrum, but we'll have a look at it. Rushing Jade Wind is the first option. Summoning a whirling tornado that travels, blah, 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 dealing damage, increasing damage, blah, blah, blah. So the Mistweaver ability that it grants is the healing done by your spinning crane kick by 50%. And don't forget, spinning crane kick is the AoE like crazy mode thing. That right there, oh god, it's crazy. There's feathers, you see that? Anyway, it's interesting. Having that increased by 50% is interesting, but the CD is 30 seconds. So it's like, and this lasts for 12 seconds. So it's essentially, if you can pick this up, you can pretty much boost that permanently. And if you can do that, you could do some major AoE healing. So that might be a good option for AoE healing fights. The other option you have here is Invoke Zuen, the White Tiger. This is going to summon an effigy. Effigy will assist you attacking, also inflicting blah 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 damage. Not useful. Don't pick this up as a healer. I can't see why. Like literally don't. This is not for a healer. Chi Torpedo. This is going to replace roll, and it's going to deal damage to all enemies and healing to all allies in your path. It's actually interesting. It might be a decent one if you're not looking to do a lot of standstill AoE or even movement AoE healing, and you want to roll around a bit. Perhaps a fight like Maloriak, where there's a lot of moving, but people aren't always next to each other. So you can't AoE heal them with Spinning Crane Kick. You could just kind of roll through them, though. I like that. It's pretty good. So I would go between Rushing Jade Wind if it was a standstill AoE fight, or even a bit movement like Atramedes. And then I would rock Chi Torpedo if I planned on doing some movement. Something that was going to be like controlled movement in a certain location where you can just roll through people and heal them up. Okay, so this is the part where we talk about glyphs. Typically the least interesting part of the video, in my opinion, but this is they have a lot of really good glyphs. So we're going to talk about them quick and hopefully keep this video a bit shorter. But one way or the other, I know that's not going to happen. So let's check it out. We got Glyph of Manatee. This is what I was trying to talk about before. Basically, the Mana Tea, the Glyph makes the Mana Tea instant instead of channeled and can automatically consumes 2 stacks. But it's going to cause a cooldown. Okay? So you could channel it and use them all, like just no CD at all, and just channel it and get mana regen back. Or you could basically just pop it instantly and you'll get the mana back and you won't be able to use it again for 10 seconds. So it really, really depends on what kind of fight you're doing. And if the fight's going to be a fight where you can't give up, you need it for more than, like, you need it back to back or something like that, then you'll have to channel it. But otherwise, I think this is a no-brainer. A 10-second CD is not that long. And as long as you don't plan on using them back to back to back, there is no reason not to pick this up. This is a definite pick for me. The other pick I've chose is Spinning Crane Kick moves at full speed while channeling. It typically reduces your speed by, I'd say, like about half. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, definitely about half. And this makes it a lot easier. So any fight where you're going to be moving, you're moving at full speed and AoE healing and doing damage on the move, basically. Just insane. These glyphs are titanic. And then Uplift. Uplift no longer uses chi, but instead costs 6% mana. Let's go to Uplift. I'll show you what it does, if I can find it. There it is. Heals all targets with your Renewing Mist active for 9,683. If you don't remember, Renewing Mist is the thing that spreads. So basically, you know, the targets with Renewing Mist can get mad heals. Now, this is something interesting because Renewing Mist uses mana. Some spells use mana, some spells use chi. That's the balancing act here. So if you'd prefer this one to use mana, pick it up. If you'd prefer that one to use chi, then don't pick it up. It depends on what you want to use as spenders and what you want to use as generators. So we'll talk about that when we get to the spell selection. Otherwise, there's a few other options. They're not tremendous. Fortifying Brew, bleed damage, bleh. Surging Mist no longer requires a target. Instead heals the lowest target within 40 yards. That one's pretty good, but I mean, they're all up to you. So you can check them out. Unfortunately, I'm trying to keep this video a bit shorter, which I know I'm failing at, so I'm not going to go through every single one of them like I'd like to, but you can check them out. The only other real good one I like is Life Cocoon. Can be cast while stunned, so perhaps the only thing I can really think of here is, remember Heroic Halphus, where he would stun you, and then immediately afterwards the tank would need a CD because he'd be taking all that damage. You need a Paladin to bubble or something like that. You need to interrupt. Well, Life Cocoon could be cast while stunned, so that would be a really good option for that. Alright, so here we go. Buckle your seatbelts. This is the most important part. Talking about spell selection and quote-unquote rotation. Now, before we do anything, I need to preface this by saying this class is unlike any other class. Basically, they're really going for the full circle rotation here. You know what I mean? Where one spell ultimately does everything for you. One resource is not being used here. Okay, there are 2 to 3 resources being used for any spec of monk. This is going to make this class definitely the hardest class since Death Knights to be able to optimize. It's certainly not mage. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? You can't just spam Arcane Blast and expect to succeed. Luckily, this isn't DPS or tanking. Those two are considerably more challenging to properly spend and generate chi. This is a bit more straightforward, especially if you pick up the glyph that I chose earlier on with Uplift. Now, what you have to understand is, this is how the meta game works for monks. Okay? They have mana. They use mana to get chi. This is all while healing, by the way. They use the chi to heal greater amounts, and then you use the chi generated to get stacks of mana to give mana back. So essentially, you're using mana to get mana back. That's the finality of it. You use mana, you heal, you get chi, you use chi to heal, you use chi to get mana back. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That is how you optimize this class. It is remarkably important. You cannot do this class properly by just using one resource. There is no possible way. Now, it's not as complicated as it sounds. It really isn't, especially not for healers. It's a lot more straightforward. Early stages of the beta, it was a lot more complicated. They weren't even going to give them mana. They weren't. It was just going to be chi. And you're going to have generators and spenders and no mana at all. Now, what's different here about this class is, so this is their go-to. This is the greater, or this is like the heal, right? The baseline heal that doesn't really use much and should be used all the time. It's channels. Okay, so Basically, while channeling it, you're using some mana, but you're generating chi and healing. It's a channel. You use it on the person that's taking damage. It's your single target heal. I would recommend, we're going to talk about single target healing first. So I would recommend throwing this on the tank. Warrior tank's taking a good amount of damage. He's the one with the boss. Soothing Mist on him. Now, you have two options from there on if this is a single target fight. You have Enveloping Mists. This is going to use 3 chi. Okay, so you need 3 chi. It's going to heal the target for a lot, and it's going to be over over 5.5 seconds, I guess. Okay, so this is basically a massive hot. Remember the breakpoints? Right, exactly. So massive, massive hot. And it's going to increase the healing that the target receives by 30%. It's baseline a 2-second cast, but, if it's cast on the person you're channeling Soothing Mists on, it's instant. Okay, so you channel this. So this is single target. Okay, listen up. Channel Soothing Mists, back to Soothing Mists on the tank, and then when they need, when you have 3 chi, this is free. This doesn't cost mana. So whenever you have 3 chi, this is what you got to do as single target. You use Enveloping Mist. Keep that hot rolling on them. It's for 6 seconds. So that's a long time. You should be able to keep this rolling on them. And then if you need to catch up, you have your Flash of Light equivalent, Surging Mist. This uses a lot of mana, but the same thing. It's going to actually generate chi too. So if for some reason you need to generate chi and you have a good amount of mana, you can use it to do that. So it's a generator. And it's going to be instant. Okay? And the heal that target, it's going to target over all others. So you can't use it on anyone else besides the person that's getting the Soothing Mists. Okay? So one way or the other, single target healing on the tank, healing with Soothing Mists, pop Enveloping Mist when you get 3 chi, and use Surging Mists if you fall behind. But if you need to use Surging Mists on anyone other than the tank, you'll need to switch the Soothing Mist or stop using it. Okay, now if you followed it so far, you're doing well. Now we're going to talk about AoE healing. It's a whole nother game, whole different ballpark, okay? Completely different. Once again, you have your generators and your spenders. We're talking about AoE healing though, okay? So what you got to realize is, for the most part, it's Spinning Crane Kick. Okay, this is your bread and butter spell. You use this when you can and use it often. It's channeled, it uses a good amount of mana, but it does a good amount of healing, and it generates chi. Okay, if it heals at least 3 targets. Lasts 3 seconds. So you can use this pretty much whenever you need it, but there's other things you got to weave in. It's not just Holy Radiance spam. Okay, Renewing Mists, massively, massively important. Good, uses a good chunk of mana, but it's rejuve, okay? It puts a crazy hot on the person, and it spreads. So you need this to be spread to as many people as possible. And I'll tell you why. Because then you could uplift them for extra healing. So here's the balance, okay? If you have uplift, never use chi, then you have no issues here at all. As long as you have a good mana pool, pick that glyph up, and have uplift, never use chi, and your chi is completely free. That's not always a good thing. Like, perhaps it's not the best option in some cases, but for me, if you could eliminate the whole like balanced chi thing, it might be a good idea. But also, if you're making it use mana, you're not going to be able to consume chi if you're only doing AoE healing. So one way or the other, Spinning Crane Kick by default, Renewing Mist, keep it bouncing, and then use Uplift to do some extra healing to the people with Renewing Mist. So you'll definitely need something tracking Renewing Mists. This is not just go down the list and give them a rejuve. Okay, it's a bit more complicated than that to maximize it out. So you'll need like Fuji or Healbot or Voodoo, something like that, to show you what targets have Renewing Mist and when is the best time to use Uplift. And then also Spinning Crane Kick as well. And then throw in, if you're really falling behind, Revival is a massive, massive CD. So there's that. All right, so now there's a few other things that need to be mentioned. I haven't really mentioned this statue in the past because it's pretty much just rudimentary. But you throw the statue down. Whenever you do Soothing Mist, it's also going to do a Soothing Mist on somebody. So kind of keeps you away from the whole, like, I can only heal one target at any one point, basically. I either heal one target or all the targets. This statue is going to help bridge that gap. But either way, it's also got a very interesting component. Whenever you deal non-auto attack damage, it's going to heal people for 50% of the damage within 20 yards of the statue. So what does this mean? This means DPS healing. Okay, we're going to talk about what you can do in order to do DPS healing. Now, the two abilities you have that are modified are Tiger Palm and Blackout Kick. Jab generates chi, and these consume chi. Okay, so these are consumers. These are, spenders, as they call them. Basically, what you need to do is well, first of all, look at what they do. Blackout Kick, whenever you use it, you gain a buff called Serpent Zeal. It's going to cause you and your Serpent to heal nearby targets for 25% of your auto attack damage. It's going to stack twice. So, if you're going to do this DPS healing thing, you jab to get chi, then you use chi to heal with Tiger Palm. Or no, first we're Blackout Kick. Yep. Use it. Use 2 chi, Blackout Kick. It's going to do damage. It's going to heal people. The target is going to be random from the Serpent statue, but then you're going to get a buff that it's going to just splash heal everybody around you for people around you for 25% whenever you melee attack, and the statue is going to double that. That's really, that's legit. You can do that. You can just do that and not use any mana. Okay, then the other option here is Surging Mist. You use Tiger Palm. You get a stack that reduces Surging Mist cast time and mana cost by 20%. So it stacks 5 times, so that means it's going to be 100%. So free, completely free, and instant Surging Mist is always good. Generates a chi as well. So you basically can, jab to generate chi, which is going to do some healing with the statue. Then you could use Tiger Palm to use some of that chi, do some damage, do some healing with the statue, and get free Surging Mist. After 5 stacks, pop an instant Surging Mist on anyone. It's kind of like the whole Judgment, Crusader Strike, blah, 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 in the Holy Paladin thing, but they ended up taking that out. They didn't like that. So I don't know. I don't know if this is, I really don't. This is different. Completely different, like I've been saying all video. So one way or the other, there's a few options. It's up to you how you want to do it. I would not do this if I were you, unless you're very, very skilled and you know exactly how to maximize both your damage and your healing. But just keep in mind, if you have 6 monks in a 25-man heroic raid, you could have 3 of them do this, and they'll do a good amount of DPS. I guarantee it. They'll do, the 3 of them together will do as much as any DPS. So, and they'll do as much healing as probably any other healer. So this is interesting. If you're a raid leader, healing class leader kind of thing, you need to keep this in mind. But one way or the other, this is unreal. They got 3 real big facets of their healing rotation, and all 3 are just titanic. So let's talk about how they wrap up and how they compare to other classes. Alright, so this is the part where we typically compare the cooldowns, throughput, and survivability of each class in terms of single target and general healing of AoE abilities and situations. So we'll do that quick. It's pretty straightforward. Monk's the best in pretty much everything. Straight up, no questions asked. The fact that they have 20 smart heals is just insane. Okay, the only class that even has other smart heals at this point, besides Wild Growth, just Wild Growth and Chain Heal. That's basically it. Okay, Mastery counts as a smart heal, but this is just insane. Absolutely insane. Their Mastery, the Jab, the Statue, the DPS abilities they have, Blackout Kick. It's just unreal. The Spreading Hot, what's that called? Renewing Mists, Uplift. These are just unreal spells. Unfathomable, untouchable, smart heals that just make this class so freaking strong if you could use it properly. I guarantee you this is going to be Death Knight reincarnated. If you played when Wrath came out, there was a very, very, very distinct thing going on with Death Knights, okay? I brought 2 Death Knights to my raid. I'm not going to mention names. One of them did 18k DPS. The other one did 4k DPS. It's unfathomable. If you can maximize this class in the beginning, it is going to be so OP. You don't even need other heals. Just bring 3 monks. That's enough for 25-man heroic. 3 monks, they got it. They probably do 10k DPS each, do 60k HPS each. No questions asked. It's just unreal. It really is. The smart heals are too strong. It's just not fair. It really isn't fair. And the worst part is everybody's going to be like, oh, look at the Holy Pally over there not doing nearly as much as the monk. It's not my fault. I don't have 8 smart heals. I can't do it. I can't do it. But one way or the other, if you could maximize your spending and consuming of chi and maximize generating it, you'll be in really good shape. I promise you. AoE healing, they are just going to be the best by a large margin. I guarantee it. Spinning crane kick with renewing mist, bouncing, and uplifting is just too strong. It's way too overpowered. Unless they nerf the coefficients, which they might. So you know, this is still beta. Still a few weeks left, so they might. But from what I've seen, I did a lot of testing actually, and holy pallies are at the bottom. Unless they do something crazy with the broken, like, Eternal Flame. But anyway, they are just too good. Okay. Single target, probably not as good as other classes. I'd like Discipline Priest and Holy Pallies above them, but one way or the other, their single target mechanic is really cool. It really is. It's neat because you can just channel and get free instant, well, not free, but instant cast heals on that person you're channeling on. So you got 2 monks, have 1 on each tank, and they stay on that tank. If it's a patchwork fight, all they got to do is heal the tanks. It's easy. Very simple. And then the DPS splash healing is, I mean, that's the smart heal, right? It's just unreal. It's really just not fair. The smart heal thing is just too good. It's why chain heal has been the best throughput spell in the game since Classic. And you think they would learn their lesson, but they haven't. So one way or the other, I've been Metro, you've been you. I probably made no sense. I don't know nearly as much about this class as I'd like to, but I know a lot about healing, guys, all right? So I know how this class is going to interact with my heals. I know how this class is going to interact with the other healers in my raid. So if you have any questions, please, I'm begging you, please leave them here. Anything about this class. I openly admit there's probably some things that I've either said wrong or haven't been thorough enough on. I'd be more than happy to do some research and answer your questions, but this can't be a 40-minute vid. It just can't be. It's too long. There's too much new stuff. So one way or the other, questions in the comments. If you have vital changes, go ahead and link math. Show me why I did something wrong. Let me know. Otherwise, Monk, oh my God, go play it. If you have any questions, you want to be a healer and you don't like the class you're playing, go check it out, man. It's really strong.